Monday, everyone, and welcome to your next episode of the Monday Huddle Show. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn Hamby, and today's episode is called Confront or Confrontational. Difficult conversations in the workplace don't have to be difficult. I am so excited, you guys, that you are here for your next episode of the Monday Huddle. And as I said earlier, you guys, I am Dr. Dawn, CEO and founder of Dr. Dawn Shop Talk. And if you don't know this about us, we are definitely obsessed with a Monday. That's a reason why we host the Monday Huddle each and every Monday. And the reason is because this is a personal philosophy of mine. I have believed for years that if you really change your attitude about Monday, it's just going to set off your week in a completely different direction. Who doesn't need that, right? So if you change your attitude about Monday, your week is just going to go so much better. So I hope that you decide to be part of our Monday revolution around here and join it by joining us each and every Monday for your next episode. Now, our mission at Shop Talk is to help you be your absolute best self at work and at home. I believe that if you can be your best self at work, it just naturally spills over into your personal life. Because isn't the opposite true? If you are miserable at your job, how can you even begin to be even a little happy in your personal life? If you are, you're just really blessed to have great family and friends and significant others, but it definitely makes it hard when you're so miserable at work. One of the reasons I'm so passionate about that is that I am a proud mom, a proud wife. I have 30 years of experience in the workforce. I specialize now in career coaching, but I've had the blessing to work for the state of Arkansas for 30 years. And most of that has been in either management training or education, sort of a combination of all three. So what I'm passionate about as a career coach is I am so excited about helping people strategize their next career steps. So maybe you're just trying to figure it out all of this right now with the world pandemic, and maybe your job is changing. So hiring a career coach gives you a professional to take a look at your resume, where you're at, and kind of trying to figure out your next steps. So that's what I love doing. I love helping people either be the best at where they are right now, or possibly look at applying for another job, another position in their company, or perhaps elsewhere. Or what's really exciting is to help people strategize of how to apply for that next promotion, or even perhaps a salary negotiation. So I would absolutely love to work with you. If you want to find out more about that, just check out our website at drdawnshoptalk.com. We offer a free 30-minute consultation. Reach out to me. We can chit-chat and see if any of our services are a good fit for you. Because in addition to career coaching, I kind of explain what to expect from a career coach and how you can get the best results possible. But I also offer public speaking, presentations on a bunch of different topics, professional development, you name it. So be sure to reach out anytime. All right, you guys, I am really excited about today's episode, which again, I'm calling Confront or Confrontational. I think you really have the power to choose that. I really do. And as I said earlier, difficult conversations, you guys, in the workplace don't have to be that difficult. Let me explain a little bit more about that. Over these 30 years in the workforce, I have seen people, whether it's an employee or a manager, who really do believe for some reason or another that just avoiding the problem is going to solve the problem. You guys, that's just not true. Difficult conversations can definitely be awkward, right? They're just like uncomfortable. You don't really know what to say. And sometimes you think that if you do ignore it, it's just going to work itself out. Well, I can tell you guys, most of the time, it's just that people are really uncertain on how to proceed. That's where a career coach comes in, or that's just where some of these tips come in. I'll tell you where you can find the tips later. But it's not that difficult. Most of the time, people just want to be heard. So there are some strategies we're going to talk about today where you can kind of take the first step in making sure these difficult conversations go a little bit more smoothly. All right, you guys? So kind of let's get to it. And if you are a first-time viewer, you may not know, I usually just share about 3 tips with you because I want you to be able to join us on your lunch hours. I don't want the show to just go on for hours and hours, but there's definitely more than 3 tips, you guys. So if you want more, again, just reach out to me. Let's start with tip number 1. I think it's important to understand the why. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, I mentioned my tip sheet. You guys, on the website, we have a Monday blog. On the Monday blog, I'm going to provide for you these tips and much more. So be sure to check that out on the website. So let me read a little bit more about this. All right. Tip number 1, understand the why. In other words, oftentimes confronting the problem can become confrontational because you're simply on your last nerve. As a result, emotions are at an all-time high, and it seems like even discussing the problem is like pouring gasoline on the fire. But if you start understanding the why of how confronting the issue can lead to this phenomenon, then you're on the right track. So you guys, as I mentioned, I write down my thoughts, my tips, I share that on the website. So let me explain what I mean a little bit more. I believe that if you don't confront the problem, it's like a cancer that spreads. In other words, if you don't cut it out and kind of dive deep and try to discover what the root of the problem is, it's just going to get worse. And guys, I can tell you that after years of managing people, the crazy part here is that sometimes as managers, if there's a problem that arises, sometimes we're actually trained to let the folks work it out themselves, right? Because that part's understandable. You don't want to call in your manager for every single problem. But here's the problem I have with that. I think that's a good first step at first. In other words, if you haven't talked to the problem, and I discover that to be the case a lot, I'll actually ask somebody, well, have you talked to them about it? Instead of coming directly to me, and they're kind of like a deer in headlights, no. Well, there's part of the problem. Don't email, don't send a long text message. Just friggin' go down there and talk to them already, okay? But if that's not working, then yes, go ahead and reach out to your superiors if you need to. Oftentimes, if you just meet them halfway and just let them know you want to understand what's going on, and I'll get into more specifics about that later, that can resolve the problem right there. But I also find that some managers are just reluctant to get into it because they really do think that by confronting the issue, it's automatically going to be a confrontation. I want to say to the managers out there, you guys, this is why we get paid the big bucks, okay? You got to put your big girl pants on and you got to go over there and help your staff. Because sometimes if you don't and you just let it work out on its own or ignore the problem, it really does fester. And I don't think that's good management. I don't think that's good for the organization. And ultimately, I think it can hurt both the staff member, their department, and definitely the organization. So guys, kind of give some thought to that, okay? If you do, I think you're going to kind of change how you feel about your week. As you can see that scrolling across the bottom of your screen there. If you have tips like these to help you confront problems so you feel empowered to do so, you're going to have a terrific week. You're going to look at your week ahead and just basically say, hello week, let's do this. All right, guys, let's go on to tip number 2. And I think this is a big one. Tip number 2 is all about listening to the issue with an open mind. And I think one of the issues here is that many times people think they're listening. They really do. They think they're listening to both sides. But many times that's not the case. Instead, sometimes people are so anxious to get their point across that they're just listening long enough for you to take a breath, and then they're going to just jump in. You guys, if you're doing that, you're not being open-minded at all. And I feel that if you really do try to put yourself in that other person's shoes, you're going to find some common ground. Now, some people might argue, oh, there's no way they can, find any common ground. I don't think that's true. As I mentioned, I have 30 years in the workforce, and I can't think of one time when two people haven't at least been able to agree on a little bit. So you can find some middle ground. It may not be perfect, but you can definitely find some. And I also think by having that attitude, you guys, the tension is going to decrease. You're going to move yourself closer to understanding. And sometimes that's all that person needs. Maybe their request or what they're really upset about, maybe it's not really about what it's about. That definitely can happen. Or maybe their request really is unreasonable. And once you explain it, problem solved. At the very least, you end up with a coworker or a colleague or an employee that at least feels heard. And who doesn't need to feel heard and feel that their voice matters? So that's definitely an important tip, you guys, to consider. All right, during this time in the show, I always like to give an audience member shout out and let you guys know I love it when you share this content, give it a thumbs up, or make comments for sure, because that helps me decide what else you would like to see. So I can design the content that we provide for you each and every week, make sure it's really meeting your needs. All right, guys, let's move on to tip number 3. This is another important one. Compromise is a win-win. All right, you guys. Now, in the world of work, let me define compromise for you because we might need a new definition. In the world of work, it's oftentimes defined as both sides giving up something. And it's usually defined as not making either side very happy. In fact, at other trainings and workshops, I've heard it described that if both sides are unhappy, then the compromise was effective. Well, I gotta disagree. I really do. I think part of the problem is the verbiage. I believe that words are very powerful. And I think that if you are talking about giving up something, there's something about that just, I don't know, by human nature makes you want to dig in your heels, right? People don't want to give up. They want to kind of hold on to what's theirs. It's just kind of human nature. It's kind of like that, mine, I don't want to share. Well, that doesn't really, in my opinion, define what giving should be. We should focus on the word give or giving, not giving up. So if you focus on giving, when you truly give, you're not expecting anything in return, but you are expecting the person to hear you and to understand your point of view. So I think compromise can truly be a win-win if you redefine it and start thinking of compromise as not giving in or giving up. Think of it as giving something to the other person. And by doing that, what you're really doing is you're giving to yourself. Because if you give something to that other person, then again, they're going to feel appreciative of that. They're going to understand that they need to do the same professional courtesy in return. And I think if you focus instead on what you're gaining by this compromise going into effect, again, if you focus on the gain and don't focus on the loss, then there really won't be a loss. In fact, instead, think about how much you will lose if you don't reach any kind of compromise. All right, you guys. So again, think about that. In doing so, I personally believe that all 3 of these tips are kind of like new tools in your tool belt. Is this going to solve every single problem, or is it going to prevent problems from ever resurfacing? No. And why is that? It's because, you guys, that human nature, by human nature, it kind of means that we're always going to perceive the world in our own way, right? You could have 2 people in the same situation. One person perceives it one way, the other person perceives it completely differently. Why is that? It's not that one person's unreasonable and one person is not, although I guess sometimes that can be true. Usually it's because we simply see the world through our own perspective. We see it through our own lens, in other words. So as a result, there's going to be misunderstandings. Sometimes a mistake can really be blown out of proportion because the person doesn't understand the circumstances. So I really believe that by following these 3 tips and others, what you're going to have is you're going to have a stronger skill set for yourself and for your organization. And if you have that, everybody wins. All right, you guys. That is it for our tips today. I mentioned YouTube. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel. I would love it if you would subscribe to our channel. Not only do we have the Monday episodes, not only this Monday episode will be there as well, but we have our previous episodes there. Lots of topics that we've covered ever since we first started airing the show in April. I also have a free webinar that you can access and other free resources, so be sure to check that out. Dr. Dawn Shop Talk believes in posting as often as we can on social media. So in addition to YouTube and Facebook, we're also on Twitter, Instagram, and one of my personal favorites, LinkedIn. Now, you guys, before we wrap up, I just want to remind you that if you need that Monday fix so that you can have a better week, don't forget that we're here each and every Monday to provide some great content for you to think about so you can have a terrific week ahead. All right, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Monday. I hope that this helps you get there. And don't forget that we will see you at the same time, the same place on the Dr. Dawn Facebook page for your next episode of the Monday Huddle, you guys. So take care again and stay safe out there. Goodbye, and I hope you again have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.